Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some education, instruction, planning ideas that I have been doing. And this idea comes to mind because, in life, I think you learn or you start to learn by imitating, by copying, and eventually you develop all of these other skills like analyzing, explaining, all of these like skills that are required by the taxonomy of Bloom or Bloom's taxonomy, right? Such as like questioning, like all of these things, right? And there's a lot of skills to develop, but the highest one is like creation, right? Like when you create, that's why like a doctor in their field will investigate. An investigation is basically like contributing to the field or to the science, right? And I'm not talking about medicine, like, because those doctors probably also do investigation, but like a PhD in philosophy or a PhD in psychology, like these people are contributing, right? They're contributing to their field. So they're creating in essence, right? They're innovating. So, that's all cool and all, but me, I always like to go beyond what's given to me. So I was like, what's beyond that, and I've sort of answered that question, not really, that's for another video. But one thing that I can say may connect to that is this, which is the idea of making like an instruction format or a reference for yourself. And I think that's maybe one step further in the evolution or in the upward spiral of evolution of different levels. So I'm going to be talking about these four topics or these four specific subtopics related to instruction making or instruction format making. So the first one is that you can do this for work, specifically like professionally, or wherever, any other type of area. You can do it for any other type of important and repeated processes, like when you start to plan for something, right? So like the initial steps of a plan. So whenever you, like, let's say at work, every year you have to make a report. You have to, I don't know, come up with different strategies to on how to tackle the problems at work, and then at the end of the year you have to make a report, a follow-up report, and evaluate the strategies, like something like that. If you do that like every year, even just if it's something that you do for yourself, you can make yourself an instruction format, step-by-step format on what to do in each step of the process, right? It's kind of like planning. Yeah, and this is where probably the initial planning idea comes in. It's kind of like planning your week or your day or your month or your year or whatever, right? You have to sit down and you have to go through whatever it is that you have to do, and then you have to prioritize, right? Like what comes first, what comes second. You have to coordinate between time, schedules, resources, right? Like, how am I going to do this when I have to be over here? Or would it be better to do this first and then this next, right? And that's basically what you're doing as you're writing up an instruction format. I have an analogy that I was saving for the end, but I'm just going to come out and say it right now because I feel like it's really useful to tell you this analogy so so you kind of ground the idea. Think of a recipe, right? If I were to say, okay, like let's just pass down this information from generation to generation on this casserole, on this lasagna, on this family secret recipe, it would be kind of hard to do, right? Like let's say you forget to do it for a couple years and then you don't remember, and your family members aren't there to tell you how to do it, then you forgot, right? And it's like crap. So you're gonna struggle, right, making that food, that delicious casserole, that delicious lasagna or whatever. So what do you need? You need an instruction format. What is that? A recipe, right? A step-by-step process on how to do that, right? And it's a reference because you can reference it or you can go to it whenever you need it whenever you forget something or a specific step, or even just as a refresher, as a reminder at the beginning of your cooking session, right? Like, or even before it, like that's basically what this is. So the value in having this is that you only need to remember to look at this, right? I had a colleague of mine just recently tell me, like, I'm a disaster with my schedules, with timing and everything. And I'm like, why don't you like get a calendar? Why don't you write it up in your notes in your phone or whatever? And he was like, well, because I would forget to look at that. And I was like, well, I can't really help you there. I mean, I can understand you forgetting a million things to do throughout your week, but I can't understand you forgetting to look at one thing, right? Which is a calendar. So that's the only thing you have to remember. Like in this case, for your processes, the only thing you need to remember is to look at your format, to look at your recipe. As long as you do that, it's all there and it's crystal clear, right? So the first thing is, yeah, for it could be for work or any other type of important and repeated processes, like when you initially start planning something, you can make a format or an outline which is step by step on how to do things or on how things should go. It's basically an instructional format. It's instructions, step by step instructions. Like think of also when you buy a crib or some complex thing, right? And you have to build it yourself, and you follow the manual and it's step by step. First, install this, or when you buy a laptop or whatever, it's also, or a console, how to reboot it, how to start it, how to whatever, right? Okay, second point, you must make it as you are working on it. Very important. That is parallel to it, right? And huge is to have it be dynamic so you can change it, adapt it, and add to it as you go, right? Now, here there are a couple of very, very big important ideas. The first one is that it's something that you do, and this is the thing that I say goes beyond creation, because now you're doing two things. You're two people. You're the person that's making the planning, right? But you're also the person that is like metacognition. You're figuring out the step-by-step process of what you're doing over here, right? So you're kind of like two people and one of them is observing the other one doing the stuff, right? So let's say the first thing is to write down ideas. So it's a brainstorming session. And then the second thing is to pick the best ideas, maybe filter them through AI, through ChatGPT, and then present them in a meeting, right? With your team or something like that. Well, that's what you're gonna write. First, write down ideas. Second, filter them through ChatGPT. Third, have a meeting with your team and decide on the best ideas. Fourth, right? And so you're gonna have like two things that you're gonna do. So that's doing it parallel. And huge is to have it be dynamic. What I mean by dynamic is that this is not written in stone. This is not set in stone. It's going to change. It's going to basically you're going to add to it, right? Which is what I've kind of been doing with my process. So what you do here is, like in my case, I'm a teacher, so I'm doing this for two different things. For one for Spanish subjects and one for English subjects. And basically what I'm doing is I already wrote both documents of my processes on how to prepare both classes, which are kind of similar, but again, one of them specifically for teaching English and the other one's for teaching other types of subjects in Spanish. And I've worked on it a lot, like two intensive sessions. And what I'm planning to do now, that I think it's kind of, well, I have to read through it again and maybe tweak things here and there. But basically I'm putting it up on Google Sites, which is edible. Not edible like you can eat it, you can edit, so it's edible. I think that's right. And the other one is that it's in my document. I'm gonna print it, but I can make like notes on it. And I know that I can go back to it, correct the Word document, and then copy and paste that onto the Google site, right? And also reprint on PDF the format, right? So I know this because, like right now in August, we're gonna be starting a new school year. But what if like throughout the school year I get other ideas, or maybe what if next school year I have more ideas, right? And I add more to it, or I adjust things because these things weren't working, right? So that's what I mean with having it be dynamic. It's going to change. So it can't be like, I'm just going to do this step by step process and it's always going to be like that. Or if you can, I mean, go ahead, do that. But just know that it can change because you can get more ideas, you can have more ideas, new information, things can change at work too, and then you have to readapt, right? So just keep that in mind. Yeah, like I already mentioned, I print it, I read it, I edit it, and I also have it on Google Sites, so I can like, just today I had to do that like twice. I put it up on Google Sites, and you can check that out in my channel. I have my social medias on there, on Twitter and everything, and I also have the Google site one. So it's both of those things are there, and I think the first one is like 13 steps, and the other one's like 15 steps, something like that, right? Okay, so third point, this will help you for future reference when you must repeat the cycle, and you can also update it then. So I already kind of spoke a little bit on this point. For future reference, again, like the recipe, you're not going to remember everything. We're not remembering machines, right? So especially when you can remember emotional, informal, subjective experiences, right? But you're not going to remember things that have to do with work, for example, or processes, right? So I mean, you will after you've done them for years, right? But I guess I'm speaking more to the people that are just starting out, right? When you're just starting out, you need a guide, and this is your own guide. You're making your own guide, your own instructions for your future self to follow, right? You're thinking about your future self. You're not just saying, "Well, I'll let future me take care of it." No, like past me is worried and is taking care of future me, and then future me is going to be thankful to past me for this, right? So again, it's that, and keep in mind that you can also update it in the future, right? So it's not written in stone. And the last point is you can put it out in public, right, on the public domain, like I have, with procedures to follow, right, step by step. Like in my case, it's this idea of planning classes, right? So I have on there like basically what to do before, what to do during, how to plan like the specific class, class by class, and what to do like after, considerations, right? Like be flexible, maybe have some movie time also. Don't be such a hard ass with students, right? Things like that. So I think that's also important to write in there, right? And it's for you, right? It's like nobody else is gonna. I mean, other people can see it and maybe have an idea and make their own, but ultimately you're doing this for you, right? You're not doing this for anybody else. I mean, if you were doing this for like your place of work, then that would be different, because then you would probably have to write clearer instructions, brief instructions, like my format, one of them is like 2 pages long. So it's like, it's even a drag to read it all. So I'm gonna have to, because I'm gonna have to follow that right now in these next couple of weeks. And anyway, well, I already mentioned an analogy, which was the recipe. Think of it as like you making your own recipe, your own secret recipe for you to come back to later, right? And ChatGPT also gave me this other analogy, which was like, it's like you making a playlist. So think about when you like a song, and then you like another song, and then maybe you like a third song, and then you're like, oh man, I'm not going to remember all these songs, right? Especially if they're new, right? So what do I end up doing? A playlist. You end up making a playlist. You end up putting those 3 songs on a playlist, right? And then maybe adding more songs onto that playlist. So then ultimately you can just have your favorite songs of the moment on this playlist. And hey, guess what? Next time you just put on that playlist and you forget about having to look for the song, select the song, right? Choose the song. You just play the playlist and you get to hear your favorite songs, right? So it's like, again, it's to make it easier on your future self. And I guess that's why it goes beyond creation. It's another step in evolution. This idea of being able to give yourself instructions on how to do the things that you're already doing, right? Because you're gonna not remember them in the future, right? and to be able to use those as future reference points, so then in the future you can you know, get a sense of what you're doing and actually do what, you know, you were doing good or well back then. And you can even add on it. That's where the dynamic part comes in. You can add, modify, change, tweak, take out what doesn't work, you know, add new things, you know, because you are going to be a different person, but you're going to thank your past self so much because, you know, well, I haven't gotten to that point, but I mean, I do that just with my planning. And with my planning, you know, I plan 1 week ahead every week. And, you know, it helps me out a lot because then, you know, by the time I get to Friday, it's like, oh, all right, like past me last week was, you know, worried about what I was going to do on Friday. And now here I have it, you know, at hand. And then I can just, you know, tweak things here and there. Like maybe I'm not going to get to do this, but that's okay because I can change it to, you know, for next week, or I can leave it off for next week, but I can do this. And, you know, and it's just so helpful. So I think that's what metacognition is for, to observe yourself. That's metacognition applied, you know, because metacognition is knowing that you're knowing, right? Like observing yourself. That's all fun and games in philosophy, for example, in psychology. But then when we get to the nitty and gritty, like here, it's actually so you can be able to observe the steps that you're doing and then maybe extrapolate or extract some type of format from that, so future you can, you know, I'm talking a lot about this future you, but yeah, so future you can use it as a reference point in the future, and it'll make your life so much easier, right? So that's all I got for this video. I hope this helps you out. The analogy of the recipe, the playlist, pretty cool analogies. I try to fit analogies into my videos, and basically that's it for this video. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Okay, so peace out.